Welcome back to the M Empire podcast. I'm excited to be back. I've been on vacation for a while, so this is going to be an interesting one. The topic today, of course, is going to be about something about business or success, depending on what I want to talk about. I got a couple notes down here that I want to talk about, but I'm going to tell you about my trip. So, all of July, I've basically been on the road. I went to a church camp. It was at Columbia. That was fun. Went there for a week. Went to Utah. That was fun. Kind of reset the gears in my mind. Get ready for business once I got back. But today, let's see. What do I want to talk about? Let's talk about the road to success. So, I'm not a millionaire. I will be soon, but I'm not right now. So I'm going to talk about what I think it will take me to evolve to be successful. So first of all, something I thought of this last week is these 3 words are what are going to help you. And I posted this on the M Empire Instagram, but just listen to these words. First one, ambition. Second one, discipline. And third one, patience. You have to have those 3 things. Now those are words that normally you don't hear. Those are words that you may hear individually, but normally you hear like motivation, connection, whatever. I think that those 3 words, if you do those actions, that whatever you choose to do, you can be successful. And so let's break those down and let's talk about this. First of all, first one we talked about is ambition. So ambition is when someone has great ambition to succeed and conquer whatever they want to, in whatever path. So let's say I was a soccer player. If I was an ambitious soccer player, I would have the ambitions to become the greatest soccer player in the world. Ambitious is that feeling and level of the highest extreme goal setting. You're ambitious. A person's ambitious to take over the world. I would consider myself an ambitious person. I've done sports in the past, and I kind of switched that motivation and fun into business because business is fun, and if you succeed in it, then you end up getting paid. So there's 2 wins there. It's fun and you get paid. So I'm going to write that down. Ambitious. Okay, next word is going to be discipline and patient. Okay, I got those 3 things written down. Ambitious, discipline, and patient. So we already talked about ambitious. Ambitious, the ambition to take over the world. Let's talk about discipline. Discipline is the action that you do something without having to have motivation and you just do it. You're disciplined in order to do it. Let's say working out, for example. If you're motivated, you'll be up at late at night watching a motivational video of like The Rock or something. And you're like, you know what, tomorrow I start. And then the next day you start, but it's kind of a crappy workout. And then the next day, you just don't even do it. So that's what motivation is. Motivation is to start. Discipline is to finish. So discipline is actually working out every single morning. And there's little tricks in your brain that you can be ambitious. You don't have to be this freaking alpha military guy that's just like, I'm disciplined. No. You can set goals in your brain that will help you be disciplined. For me, I don't like working out. But I make it into a game. I'm like, we're going to do a fun workout today. We're going to do this. And so it continues to help me do my goal. And so that counts as ambitious and discipline. But, I'm not extremely motivated to work out. So you have to trick your brain into being disciplined. And sometimes after you fail enough times, you just get pissed off with yourself enough that you just take over and you just are disciplined. You just wake up one day and you're like, okay, I'm done failing on this. I'm just going to do it every single day. And then there you go. Then you get jacked after it. Patience is another good form. You have to be ambitious to have big goals. You have to have discipline to continue doing those goals. But then you have to be patient if those goals don't happen as soon as you would like them to. So there are things like muscle building. We can use working out again as an example. With that, you're not going to get jacked overnight. You're not going to get jacked even in 6 months unless you're taking something. It will take a year to start really showing people what you're building. So you have to be patient in what you're building. I've been very patient with myself as the journey continues, but then the second you get far enough, you look back and you're like, dang, that was pretty good actually. You're running a mile, you had a 7-minute pace, 6-minute pace, maybe even 5-minute pace. You're going and you hate the journey doing it, but the second you finish, you're like, man, I feel like I could do that again. Then you start running again and you're like, okay, maybe I can't. But you have that patience to get through it, and then you look back and you're like, dang, all right, I actually did that. Not bad. Let's try it again tomorrow. So those 3 things I believe will lead you to success. Now, I'm not the most successful person in the world, but I definitely do things that I would consider a success in my mind. So I have these little things going on. I have little side businesses, little side hustles, little operations that I've hired people to carry out for me. So now, let's talk about business with that being said. So we can talk about my adventure and journey. A lot of people don't know me well enough to know where I even started. They either got to know me after I was doing all these things, or they knew me before, but they haven't really kept up with the journey. I'll try and keep it entertaining and make it quick. A year ago, I started in the back of my grandma's GMC. All right, let's keep that in mind. It's my grandma's car. I'm borrowing it. So let's keep that in mind. And I'm using my dad's pressure washer. So a year ago, I quit football, a little over a year and about a month, and I quit football. Football coaches were wanting me to come back. The football players were wanting me to come back. I wasn't the best football player, but I was disciplined and ambitious to get good, and I started getting good at the end, but that doesn't matter. I quit football knowing that I wanted to succeed, because the reason I quit football is I went to a family reunion, and my wealthy grandparents out in Vernal rented out this giant log cabin, and it was awesome. I don't know them too well. I don't know the Shiners as well as I'd like, but it was awesome. I went out there. The cabin's giant, and it motivated me. I said, why am I going to play football? I know I'm not going to go D1. I know I'm not going to be in the NFL. Let's actually put into plan something that will boost me into adulthood and into the real reality, because high school is not reality. That is a very corrupt plan made by very higher up peoples, but we can get into that later. But I quit football. I was like, I want that lifestyle. I want to have that big log cabin. I want to be able to rent out big log. I want to own that big log cabin. That log cabin fit 200 people. It could sleep over 265 people. It's huge. It's actually on my Instagram story, marshall.mcgee1. It's on my highlight reel, and it's giant. It was cool. So I got home, immediately texted my coach. I'm like, sorry to do this over text, but literally the next practice we were to pick out pads and stuff, and I didn't want to pick out pads and then return them. It'd be awkward. So I just quit before we even got pads or anything. I was like, Coach, I'm sorry, I'm done. It was weird because a week ago I had ambitions to be the best football player at Kickapoo. Now I want to be this millionaire tycoon. So I switched my goals up pretty fast, which is usually normal for young kids. They're always bouncing around different ideas. But so I started something called Plan M. Sounds familiar. M Empire, that was an evolution down the road, but it originally was Plan M. My plan was to make like 10 businesses and hire my friends to run those businesses, and then it would succeed. Obviously, that's not the case. No kids know how to run a business besides me, and I only know how now because it was a year of failing, and now I have connections with some of the greatest, business people in my industry. But before then, I had zero connections. I just had friends from my school. I hired my friends. Turns out kids don't want to work. I still have a lot of kids working for me that have been my best friends since day one. And they're awesome. There's actually one right there. But the whole thing was I was going to have a bunch of businesses. It was going to be a giant elaborate plan. I was going to be a millionaire. I was going to be rich. Turns out you have to have patience and discipline on each one of those businesses to grow it. Advertising is a huge part, and networking is a huge part. You have to let people know you're out there. And I had these small businesses that I was only getting a couple jobs here and there, and I was only getting jobs because it was family hiring me. Looking back, that's pretty disappointing. And the reason I'm as ambitious as I am now is because I've gotten roasted multiple times about that. I'm going to get into that, but I'm going to fast forward my story a little bit. None of the businesses were working out, but I started focusing on one individual one itself. I had 10 really good businesses, good business ideas, but none of the businesses were actually thriving. I found one. I was watching a TikTok. I was being lazy on TikTok like every teenager, and I stumbled across a guy doing power washing, and he was saying how much they can make, and I'm like, heck yeah, I want to do that. So I started one. My dad had a power washer. I had a car that was borrowed from my grandma. And I actually still have that car, but I'm going to get into that. So I had the power washer. So then I hired a friend. Okay, it's all part of the Plan M. Next, we got business cards. We handed them out. Hundreds of business cards. Thousands. 0 calls. Nothing. Nothing for the whole summer. It wasn't until this time, exactly last year, which is kind of getting towards the end of the summer, that we had our first job. And it was my grandma. Very nice lady. So after doing all these family jobs, I have a lot of family members, a lot of uncles, all that good stuff. It was very nice of them to hire me at the start. But I had people that are like, Marshall, you can't brag. The only customers you got is your own family. I'm like, you know what? You're right. So I put my head down, I grinded. It was a very slow start. And the whole thing about success is it always starts slow. And then you work your way to this giant, rolling ball where you have enough money. You can hire a really professional person to do this for you. Then that blows up. And then you hire another professional. And then it starts getting huge, I was watching a podcast on Kevin Hart. And this man, he just builds and builds and builds and builds. But it always starts slow. It's always that first year, always the first second year, it always starts slow. So that's where the patience kicks in. And then the discipline to actually continue doing those tasks every day without getting paid. I worked many months without even $1 entering my account. And this last year, things have changed. That's why I started the podcast. I want to spread the word and tell what I've learned to other people. And I'm not the top dog yet, but I'm ambitious, and I'm going to run America one day, and that's my ambition. I have a whole plan to do it too. I have a lot of people helping me with that goal. I have a lot of powerful connections that are going to get me to that. I have a powerful mind, ambitious. It's one of our traits. So we're going to speed up the story again. Okay. Eventually, we get some more jobs. We started a Facebook. We started a website. We're slowly getting more customers that are not family. We're at about 3 customers that are not family by now. I'm starting to see that I'm going to need a trailer soon because I'm tired of unloading and loading that power washer back and forth. And I also hired Jackson at the time, which is one of my top workers right now. He has a truck, and he would load it up in the back of his truck too, and we would go to a job and knock it out together. We'd share the power washer. It was a mess. Now, he's still working with me today. He's making thousands of dollars. We're doing well, but I'm going to get to that in a second. Listen, the first purchase I made for my business was a trailer. I had $800 cash that I've used from saving up for my childhood, that I've used from making a little bit of money from these jobs. I also had a big payday with my grandma. She helped us out. She was one of our biggest clients, still one of our biggest clients to this day actually, but that's because she's a nice woman. I bought that trailer with $500. I went to the sketchy part of town. It was like a junkyard almost. And I got that trailer. I got very lucky because that has been my best trailer yet. Sadly, I sold it, but that trailer, it felt like it wasn't even getting pulled behind the car. It was so smooth. All right. So I bought the trailer. We finally are loading the pressure washer in the trailer. We had little tie-ons. We're doing everything. Now, we get about 3 more jobs that season. Season over. Boom. At the time, I still had Alpha Music Production, another one of my businesses. It was a DJ business. We had a couple successful jobs, but it just wasn't the avenue that I wanted to go. I knew that I wanted something more out of my work, because it's a lot of work to be a DJ, a lot of pressure, that's for sure. Hundreds of kids, thousands of kids. You play one bad song, you get booed. it wasn't my thing. I like to be a little hermit sometimes, but I ended up not doing that business during the winter. I started doing pressure washing. I dipped my foot into crypto, stocks. Of course, both times I did both, they crashed. So that's my luck. But anyways, during the winter, we grinded. Me and Jackson. It was just me and Jackson. Springtime, picked up Jacob. He's got a lot of different jobs through Empire now. But to fast forward, and the moral of the story is we grew fast. I sold that trailer that I originally bought for $500. I sold it for $1,100. I made $600 on it. Made $1,100 in one day. That was a big purchase back then. Second thing I started doing is a plan that I'm still doing where I buy and sell vehicles. That was amazing. That's what I did during the winter. I bought and sold things. I started with the golf cart that my parents bought, and then I borrowed $1,500 from my parents to buy my Corvette. And then I sold that Corvette for an RV. I flipped it for an RV. Just a trade for the RV. I sold that RV for $10,000. So there goes that money. That money's paid off, And then I had an extra $5,000 after that to fund my business. I'm still have some of that money laying around because of how big of a flip that was. That was amazing. I loved that one. That RV was fun. Since then, I've flipped a boat, motorcycle, trailers, and it goes on and on. I don't even remember all the things I've done. I'm kind of jumping around this story because it's unorganized, but that's exactly how my journey was. I had no idea what I was going to do. I'd wake up and I'd just do something random. Work on a car, pass out some cards. There was many days that I literally sat in the car and just cried because my cards were not doing anything. This was about a year ago. I haven't done that. But it was terrible. I mean, the cards weren't working in the winter time. Nothing was working besides the flips. Now this is where it starts getting good. I hired more people. I started working really hard on the Do Boys business. And now this is about springtime. So we started last summer. Okay, we're going to fall. We did decent in the fall. Last winter we did well. And then this last spring, we did really well. We had a job a week for months. And now we're in a slow period, but it's because we're in like a drought. No one's wanting to pay for anything. All of the prices on everything is going up. So my business is a little slow right now, but I'm not worried about it because we got other operations that are doing just fine. We started advertising really hard. That's the main thing, is connections and advertising. I started getting a lot of connections through church members, friends, families. They would tell their friends, they would tell their friends. That's how we got all of the first 10 jobs. I think we've done something like 14 jobs this year. And all of them are high ticket jobs, so it may not seem like a lot, but each one you're getting anywhere from $4,000 to $2,000, and it's hard though. If you're trying to start a pressure washing business, reach out to me. I got some connections, but it's really hard to even start. First of all, the equipment's expensive. I keep jumping around because I have ADHD, but listen. Now, I have 2 trailers, an office. Now, it's a room in my parents' basement, but I'm still a senior in high school, so it's kind of normal to still live with your parents. But I'm using a room in my parents' basement here. It's a nice room. I basically took over the whole basement, and we're doing well. We're doing really well. I'm still using my grandma's car. So the story on that is the Corvette broke down a long time ago, so I borrowed my grandma's car, and then I had the Corvette and the car, but every time I got the car, the Corvette would break. It was a mess. Then I sold the Corvette, so then I didn't have a car, but I had a lot of money, but I didn't have enough money to buy a car, so then I invested in my business. It was a slow process. A lot of people talking trash. They're like, oh, you're buying your grandma's car. Well, they didn't know I was investing the whole time, and now I have enough money to buy a car. So this week I'm actually probably going to go out and buy another car. But I've been investing every penny I have into the business. Now I have 2 trailers, a lot of employees, as many power washers as you can think, thousands of feet of hose. So we have been investing quite a bit. So that is kind of my journey. It was crazy. It was chaotic. It still is. I get nervous every day, have small anxiety attacks if I'm doing something hard. These are real life things, and no one, depending on how alpha they are, no one's just this giant disciplined tank. Everyone has nervous attacks. I've talked to multiple millionaires that still tell me that they get nervous for meetings. They get nervous talking to higher up peoples. So it is nervous. It's normal to be nervous. But this is something to keep into consideration. My story started with ambition. I was poor, zero money, still kind of poor compared to some adults that I'm working with. But I had zero money, literally $0. But I had a goal to create 10 businesses. I did. I started a lot of them. That was the most stressful time of my life. But I ended up closing all of those down because I was like, I can either have a million mediocre businesses or I can have one good one that makes thousands of dollars. And so that's where we're at now. Second one, discipline. Discipline, I was disciplined enough to continue. There's many times that I could have said, fine, I'm just going to go back to sports. I'll just join football next year. I'm not going to worry about this business thing. But I stayed disciplined. I worked on it a little bit every day. The thing is with business, whenever you start, very often do people actually work 9 to 5 on their business. I started off literally working like 15 minutes a day and slowly building on it. Now I'm to the point where I'm busy enough that I can work if I want to. I can spread out my schedule. I can take a full day off and hang out with my girlfriend. Or I can work on computers with some of my employees and we can figure out some way to make some money. Right now we're kind of in a money drought. Business is slow, but that's part of it. This is an honest podcast. You're going to have months that are slower than other months. Last month was our best month. This month we've had literally 0 jobs. Part of it is because I've been gone for 3 weeks, but now I'm back. We have a really good advertisement going. We've already gotten a couple leads from it. So we're going to continue crushing it. But the whole thing is I had discipline, carrying myself all the way through it. And then I had patience. I had patience every day that I showered. I had really good ideas of my businesses. I just thought and I thinked, and I thought and I thinked. I watched hundreds of thousands of hours of podcasts in business. I listened to every single Grant Cardone video he has to offer. I've listened to every single Alex Hormozzi freaking video that he has to offer. 30 minutes in the car going to school every day, you end up listening to a lot of dang podcasts. So every single day something. Lots of TikTok watching. Now my TikTok every now and then it's a funny video, but the majority is motivational, business savvy stuff. And so that's kind of my story, guys. I started in the back of my grandma's car and I'm finally making enough money. I can graduate from that. I have enough knowledge that I can spread the word in a humble manner. And that's also another thing. You may not consider me the most humble person, but there's something different between being humble and then being confident. I'm very confident in my abilities. I always have been. But people get that mixed up sometimes. Being humble is not talking about what you make. Being humble is donating money, helping people that actually need money. I've done a lot of donating money. I've done a lot of donating time. I'm over at people's house every week helping them with something. And that is being humble. No matter how much money you make, you sit your butt down, you help pick up that table. You never be cocky enough that I make enough money, how about you go do that? So that's what I believe humble is. We need more confident people in this world. We need masculinity back. We're taking over. Commentate W. But it's been a great podcast, guys. I don't even know what we're at. I think about 25 minutes-ish. That was kind of my spiel. That was my story. We're making enough money. We can pay my grandma. We can buy a new car. I can donate hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars to my church. I can help people out that I never could. I can buy food for people. I can do things that I did not and I would not be able to a year ago. Now, with that being said, I'm thankful for all the people that have helped me. They know who they are. I've had a lot of people help me. I've done very little borrowing of money. My parents don't fund this. But I have had a lot of people that give me good advice, and I have had a lot of people that work side by side with me for years now. They have been my loyal friends. Jacob, come sit down. Jacob, come sit down. I recently hired my friend to help me and Jackson with the pressure washing business. This is Jacob. Right now he's my social media manager. We have lots of notes. You're going to be seeing a crap ton of content from me. We have everything charted out, everything booked out. We know exactly our plan for social media marketing. So this is my newest social media manager. Thanks, Jacob.
You're welcome.
So, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. This adventure has been fun, and I'm only getting started. I have a full year left to do this. So if I did that much work in 1 year, imagine what I can do with the knowledge I have now with a whole nother year ahead of me. Senior year, we're taking over. I already own Kickapoo. Now it's just the finishing touch.